Hi everyone, welcome to Shaky Sports Journeys. A lovely gloomy day in Glasgow and Edinburgh. That's why I have the lights on at 5:30 in the house. I've got a nice special guest with me today. I'm joined by current Cricket Scotland national team coach, ex-professional cricketer from South Africa. I'm joined today by Shane Burger. How are you?
Yeah, Shaky, all good. I see you've had some incredible guests on your show, so I'm incredibly privileged to be on this show, and hopefully I can live up to some of the expectation that, some of the other content that you brought in. So thanks for getting me on. I'm looking forward to chatting to you.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on, and thank you very much for the compliments. It was amazing to hear that you have been watching, and that means a hell of a lot to me. But no, it's my pleasure to have you on. You're a countryman of mine now, and I'm a big supporter of Scottish cricket. So I'm right behind you, and I'm keen to hear a little bit more about yourself and your team and your squad moving forward in this podcast. So, Shane Burger, born 31st of August 1982, which means in a couple of days' time this man will be turning 38. So I'll say a early happy birthday. This will be coming out after his birthday, but we'll get that in there anyway. Born in Johannesburg. Talk to me about what it was like growing up. One of the things that amazes me about you is you still look young. They could maybe get you in a player coach role. You're very young for being a coach as well. So I'm really curious to hear your story. But start from the top and tell me about your childhood, your family, your upbringing.
Yeah, I'm a believer that after 30 you don't celebrate birthdays anymore. So yeah, whilst I'm a young coach, you mentioned a few of those things, and straight away I think back and I can't believe our time's flown, Shaky. It's been an amazing journey. I was fortunate to be born in Johannesburg and grow up and born and bred there, go to a co-ed school, not a private school in Johannesburg. And I was fortunate to eventually play at the very place that I dreamed of playing. I wanted to play at the Wanderers. That was always my dream. If I think of the sort of guys that I played with back in my career, the coaches I was exposed to, I think I was really fortunate. And now I look at myself in Scotland as the head coach, and it's been an incredible journey, and I'm really looking forward to maybe just expand on that journey with you.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. You're flying ahead. You've not wasted any time getting into the coaching chair. But before we get there, you weren't too bad at the game yourself. You said you played for I believe you played for the Lions to begin with. You had a lengthy period with them, so that was your main team. So tell me, what was it like coming into the Lions team, and what kind of squad did you have back then?
Yeah, so I was fortunate to make my debut when I was 19. I was a young guy, and knew absolutely nothing at that stage. And when I say I knew nothing, you're a young guy that's just left school. You don't really know what you want to do with your life. All I knew at that stage is I didn't want to go to university. I didn't want to study. I'd had enough of the books, and I wanted to play sport. I was lucky enough that my father was a professional sportsman, or an amateur sportsman back in the day. He was a rugby player. My mother was a hockey player, so I come from a family of sportsmen. And then actually my dad, to earn a bit of extra cash, started coaching in the afternoons. He became a tennis coach. So, whilst I was brought up playing different sports every single day, I was also, exposed to a coach as a dad. And he taught me quite a bit. And I suppose looking back now and having become a coach, it was probably ingrained in me from a very young age. But yeah, I didn't want to go to university, and that's probably where my story starts. And I went to an academy called the Northerns Cricket Academy. And I went there as having not represented any school cricket or anything like that. As I mentioned earlier, I went to a co-ed school, and I wasn't offered the sort of opportunities to play for provincial teams. And actually, I was very much a late developer coming out of school. So I got into this academy, ate, slept, drank cricket for 7-8 months. It was brilliant. I loved it. I actually met my very assistant coach right now, Grant Morgan, back then, who was the coach of the Northerns Academy. So it's amazing how our relationship's gone full circle, and now I'm the one telling him what to do, and then he was telling me what to do, so it's come full circle. I was a tearaway quick bowler. I made my first class debut as an opening bowler. And as you and I both know, the coaches think if you bowl quick, you can't bat. So they generally put me down at the bottom of the order, and I had to bat with a tail for a lot of my career. And so I had to learn to bat and learn to face a second new ball in first class cricket. And I was just fortunate enough to play 14 years as a professional. in and out, having played 91 first-class games, I was always that guy who prided myself on being the disciplined bowler, being the disciplined batter, and winning games for the team with both bat and ball. I'm a character that gets bored quite easily, so I like to get involved and try to do it all, Shaky. So, yeah, wonderful journey so far.
It's really interesting to hear you speak about your dad there, and that now makes sense to me. It kind of ticks that box that, it's unusual. You do see young coaches kicking around, but when I spoke to you the first time, and I'm sure people will see from watching this today, as we go on and talk more, you've got a wise head, and you talk very well, and you ooze a coach. When I spoke to you, I could just feel that this guy's a coach. So hearing your dad's languages and speaking to young kids as they were coming through, and different ways of getting the best out of them, you were obviously picking all these things up at the time, and it's that's really interesting to hear. You play it down a little bit. 7 first-class tons, 171 first-class wickets. It's a genuine all-rounder. I know you said you started as a tier away quick, and I'm sure as the years went on into the latter years, you found that you started maybe slowing it down a little bit and becoming smarter with your bowling. But to get 7 first-class tons over in South Africa tells me that you were a fine batter as well. Maybe if they pushed you up the order a bit earlier, you might have had a couple of more first-class tons.
Well, they always say, if you knew what you knew now as a coach, how different would your playing career have been back then? And I honestly believe, Shaky, I had all the attributes to represent my country. I didn't free my mind up at that stage. I didn't have anybody really supporting me enough to do that. And if I look back now, seeing what the guys are capable of doing, and seeing the way we coach the players now to really go out and express themselves and not have a fear of failure. I played a lot of my career fearing failure.
Likewise.
And I really believe that held me back, So having a coach as a father really helped me a lot, but it could also have been detrimental to my career because he had very high expectations. And the thing that I learned a lot from him was there's no substitute for hard work. I used to see his work ethic, and I used to pick up on that all the time. And you learn from that, and I suppose dad's always honest with you, and they're very upfront with you and tell you your strengths and your weaknesses and realize how much you have to go out and work there. And, I look back, and my first goal playing first-class cricket was just to get that first wicket. That's what I wanted. Then my second goal was to score that first run, and I'll never forget walking into my first-class debut, watching a Vasper Drake's running in bowling at me and thinking, I don't think I'm ever going to get 1 run in first-class cricket, never mind scoring 7 tons later. And, so it's a stepping stone. Every game's a stepping stone. And when you get that first run, your confidence builds. When you get that first wicket. And I think back then I was really fortunate that I was surrounded by a lot of amazing senior players. If I think of some of the names, Darryl Cullinan was standing at first slip while I was bowling. I had a Clive Eckstein next to me. Adam Bacher. I had a Grant Elliott who went and played for New Zealand, So I came through a group of players that were superb to be around, and they just showed me the ropes. And honestly, I didn't, there were some good coaches around me, but I actually learnt my cricket from the players at that point. Yeah. So that's, I suppose, where cricket's really changed a hell of a lot. We still got senior players, but a lot of it's revolved around the coaches now. The coaches have to pass on that information, and I think that's where it's come full circle in the game. No,
it's great. Great to hear. You had a period as well with KwaZulu-Natal. Who did you play? What are some of the names that you would have played with there? I mean, they're quite they produced some great names over the years.
Yeah, it's a great province. If I think of your Sean Pollocks, your Lance Kluseners, those were the guys that came out of Natal. Many others that I haven't mentioned. Your John T. Rhodes is another one. But, I left, Shaky. I had to leave. I got stale in my career. When you've been in one place for 12 years, it's very easy. You're the easy guy to leave out, And I just felt I needed at that stage of my career something just to get me out of my comfort zone probably, and just go and probably move into the next phase of my career. I wanted to go into coaching. I always loved coaching, and I could still do it while playing. So when I moved to KZN Inland, again, Grant Morgan was the coach at KZN Inland, brought me across, got me to captain, and I effectively became the assistant coach. And we took a team that was 13th on the log to become champions, and that was a wonderful journey in the space of a couple of years. And that really prepared me for coaching. And I'll never forget the call Morgs gave me the one day. He phoned me. He said, "Listen, I've had enough. I'm moving on. You're going to get offered the coaching role, and you need to take it. Don't be worried about it." And I said to him, "There's no ways that I'm ready to do this. What are you talking about?" He said, "Trust me, take it. You're ready. Go for it." And I was lucky, Shaky. I took over the coaching role then, and I took over a group of players that I captained the year before. And I suppose having
quick.
that knowledge of knowing those players and working
Yeah.
with those players on a day-to-day basis, I knew how to get the best out of them. So you know what? It gave me a bit of an advantage going into professional coaching. So I was really fortunate.
What do you find in the transition though, Shane? You said you captained them and then went into coach. Was the transition, it sounds like you just said it was pretty straightforward, but is it different the coaching to captaining? Is it quite similar?
Well, obviously the thought processes are the same because, if I look at the Scottish system at the moment, a lot of the off-field stuff, Kyle is very much involved with that. But actually, once you step over the rope, that's Kyle's team. That's his responsibility to set out what his game plan is and what the team's game plan is. And they've got to go out and execute it, We don't have a remote control on the side of the field that can control players.
Well,
but ultimately, it would be a big remote. It would be a really big one. But, and you know what? We don't want that because you want to pass over the players. They should be strong enough and mentally strong enough to make their own decisions, and that's what you want. But going through that experience, and I suppose the accelerated growth of my coaching was because I was captain and I understood the leadership and what was required. And then when I did take over, we were just, we had a fantastic first season and I was really lucky. So success came really quickly. So that builds your confidence, doesn't it? But what happens in the next season is you get hit really hard. Mother Cricket brings you down to earth.
Expectations are higher then.
You think you've made it. You think you're bulletproof. Suddenly you get pulled right down because we have a poor season. We're not champions anymore. Now you want to get back to being champions. I always say to everyone, it's sometimes, yes, there's a lot of work to becoming a champion, but there's sometimes the easy thing to do is to become the champion because there's a motivation to want to become number one.
Yeah.
The key is when you get to number one, how do you remain there? And that's where you look at some of the world's best, your Tiger Woodses and these guys. Can you imagine how mentally strong these guys have to be to keep moving on?
Even the great Australian team under Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting, the amount of time they've done it for, you're right. To get out of bed and keep wanting to be number one is it's no easy feat. And these Djokovic's and Tiger Woods and these guys, Federer, you've got to admire that they just keep doing it. They are gifted as well. They're gifted with talent, but you need to be this. There's life challenges that go on. You can have ups and downs, but to just keep doing it, unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So you clearly got very early success as a coach. You've accelerated your playing career. Some people might take 5-10 years to really get into a coaching career. Thankfully, you've managed to really take your experience straight in there, and you've had success with the Dolphins. And then, in January 2019, this is how I've come across you, and I'm getting to know you a little bit better. You decided to come over to lovely, sunny, warm climate of Scotland to take up the national team coaching job. I guess what I want to ask you is, how did the job come up, and who were the influencers? You must have had a few friends that you spoke to that maybe said, it's a good gig and whatnot. Please share.
Yeah, so I'll never forget it. I was sitting in South Africa watching our current team, KZN Inland, play at that point, and I got a phone call from a very, very good mentor of mine called Adrian Birrell, who you know very well. And Adrian said to me, just a fantastic human being and a great coach, wonderful coach. I've learned a lot from him. Amazing. And he said to me, look, Shane, I've been in touch with Scotland and there's this opportunity to go over there. And I've told them that you're the guy and you're ready for the job. And I was really taken back by that because Adrian at that point, he just moved to Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And actually before that, he was a mentor coach at Cricket South Africa. And I suppose my very quick journey into coaching was first year really successful. I went on an SIA trip with the A side to Australia. We played an amazing series there with some really good players. So I learned really quickly, got fantastic opportunity with Cricket South Africa. And then in my appraisal with Adrian Birrell, we got to know each other pretty well and got talking about coaching. And I think he then understood, my philosophy in coaching and my ambitions and where I wanted to get to. And I think he saw it as a great opportunity for me. So coaching and cricket, there's a great network of people, isn't there? And when you're in that network, people talk. And the cricket world's actually quite small. So I got another guy who you will remember, John Kent, who another guy that I do a lot of work with. And John played for Scotland as an overseas player for a few years. Good cricketer, good guy. And he got in touch and said, look, you're going to be getting a call very soon about an interview to be the head coach of Scotland. And, you can't really comprehend at the time, and you kind of you get goosebumps and you get really excited knowing that you can get into international cricket. But I never took it too seriously, if I'm completely honest. And then in my interview, you know, suddenly I had to go find out about Scottish cricket and find out what had happened in the last few years and try to dive into the history. And Shaky, when you go into it, you realize what amazing things have actually been happening. You know, it's almost like I don't want to say a sleeping giant, but there's just so many great cricketers in this place, so many good cricketers that have come through. You know, you mentioned some of the names that you played with, some really fantastic cricketers. Gavin Hamilton went on and played for England, you know. Douglas Lockhart, who's on the board now, just a fantastic guy who's played. John Blaine, who we've pulled back into the system to come and coach, you know. So there's been lots of guys that have gone through the system. And I suppose I had a good interview and the feedback was good, and my vision aligned with the vision that they saw for Cricket Scotland. And there we go, bang, it happened. This marriage happened very quickly. And I've got to tell you the story, but I arrived on the 5th of March, 2019, after waiting 2-3 months to get a visa to come over to Scotland. And the first thing that I arrived to was pouring rain. It was freezing. Got out the cab at Edinburgh Airport, got into the cab. He says, "Where are you off to?" And I was staying in a hotel in the city centre. And he said, "What are you here to do?" I said, "I'm coming to coach some cricket." He said, "What are you talking about? We don't play cricket here." And so that was the first, you know, that's the first person I'd met in Scotland, and he's telling me we don't play cricket. He's obviously a football fan, you know, and straight away that got me thinking, you know, well, how can we change that mindset? You know, how do we show these Scottish people what a wonderful cricket team they've got? And some people wouldn't even know of some of the achievements that the guys have made.
Well, listen, a couple more victories against England, and I guarantee you, the punters will start coming out and will start saying, because it's anything to have a few bragging rights over the English. So, you know, that's certainly something you can put in your locker. That would be handy to have. Can we go on and talk about, you know, your actual squad? I'm keen to talk to you about the squad now. I know pretty much most of the guys, but I'm curious to hear about some of the new faces, but also talk about some of the old guard as well. So, in particular, your old guard, who I classify as the old guard now, is Kyle Coetzer, Callum McLeod, and Richie Berrington. You know, 3 lads who I played in the Scotland team with many, many years ago, came through the system with these guys, and they've gone on and they've had fantastic careers. Still going strong. You know, I had a net with Richie just about a week or so ago. He looks like a bit of a dad, though. You know, he looked like Conan the Barbarian with this big beard. But I mean, how have these guys been to come in and work with, and how big an influence are they on your team and the squad?
Yeah, good question. I think the 3 individuals you just mentioned, I think many people won't know how talented those 3 guys are and what they've actually, you know, not only what they've done in their careers already, but actually what they still could do. You know, I look at a Richie Berrington, you mentioned him, he's 33, but actually Darren Stevens is still playing at 45. I mean, you know, Richie Berrington, if he keeps himself fit, could do anything in the game still. You know, I think he's still got a lot more to offer with the bat in terms of especially ODI cricket. I think he can be a guy that could go in and score big ODI hundreds, just like Callum has done previously. Amazing thing about Callum McLeod is he's a competitor. You know, he constantly wants to compete and win games for Scotland. That's what he's about. Love working with him. You know, he's very honest, he's very direct, he's very clear on what he wants to achieve, and he's actually got very high goals and ambitions, and I don't think a lot of people would know that. You know, Kyle's just a wonderful leader. You know what he brings a sense of calm, he brings a great sense of humor to the team. He knows when to crack a joke, and he goes about his business. I mean, with an ODI average of 46, you've got to be a pretty decent player, don't you? So look, I've said to all 3 of them, you know, they're very much senior players in the team, but actually they've probably got the most pressure on them, because if they want longevity in their careers, it's probably going to come down to, well, how badly do you still want it? You know, how mentally tough you're going to be to keep leaving the family, go on trips and do that, you know, go to World Cups. How many World Cups do you still want to go to? What's your motivation to want to carry on playing? But more importantly, Shaky, the big thing is, you know, can they be fitter at this time in their career than they were maybe a few years previously? Because that's ultimately going to keep them playing for a longer period of time. So they've all 3 bought in. I think they're fantastic characters. I think what they bring in terms of just being a great human being into the squad is amazing. They lead by example. And I think all 3 of them still have a massive role to play. But in saying that, you know, if the day comes where one of them decides to call it a day, or all 3 of them, because there's going to become a day where that happens. you know, I'm confident that we have reserves in the bank that can replace them and come in and do as good a job as them. You know, I think we've got some wonderful talents sitting on the sidelines, and with more cricket, with more competitive cricket, with the right guidance, they could do anything, some of these young guys, you know, and I'll mention a few of them as we go along.
Yeah, no, it's those three guys, big fan of all three of them. I think three of the top five batters you've still got there for the next 3 or 4 years, like you say, if they want it. And from I've not seen as much of Callum in recent years, but Richie and Kyle I'm often in touch with, and I know they're still very passionate about Scottish cricket and doing well. So I think you've got three good senior talismen there that can go on and do some great things still. Moving into, I want to talk about your pace bowling, the talent, you know, what you've got already, what might be coming through. So the guys that stand out to me, there's one guy in particular I've seen bowl a couple of times. I'm really impressed by is a guy called Brad Wheel, who I'm sure you've got right in your radar. I actually seen him bowling in a county clip the other day, and it looked like he was bowling nicely, lovely action, bowls good heat. Anytime I've seen him bowl for Scotland, his economy rate is very good. He must be, is he somebody that's going to be pulling a Scotland shirt on much, and is he in your plans?
Yeah, Brad's massively in the plans. You know, I remember Brad from back home in South Africa, you know, and he, young guy, fit guy, bowls a heavy ball, good action, as you mentioned, ability to swing the ball too, you know, at high pace. So that's always good, especially the white ball, you know, it doesn't tend to shape much. So if you can get it to shape, that's a huge advantage. But Shaky, you know what really excites me the most is you throw Brad Wheel into the mix, and you throw various others, Sharif and Evans, all these guys. But there are other guys that people aren't even aware of. You know, you throw an Adrian Neil.
That was my next question.
So sorry, before I get to that question,
don't give away too many of your secrets. You don't need to tell us too much. But who are the ones that we need to look out for? Because it's a very important thing, especially in international cricket. You know, you need to have some really proper bowlers, and we've had that for a while now. But you know, guys are Ali Evans, for instance, getting a bit more on. Safi, I mean, still got a good few years left in them, but there needs to be the next core.
Yeah, and this is the point I wanted to make. I think we've got about 10 or 12 guys from a seam bowling point of view that could play at any time because they offer you different skills. Wow. So whether that's extreme pace, whether that's getting the ball to move around, I think about a Josh Davey who comes in and we know what he's all about. He just gives you consistent performances. He understands his game so well. He's averaging 10 with the ball at the moment for Somerset with the red ball. You know, he's an incredibly skillful bowler. He can also bat, you know, so he's a great all-round option. So I believe, you know, a guy like Chris Soul, who's living in Australia but still available for Scotland, you know, he can bowl at high pace. And so we've got 10 or 12 guys that we could pull in at any stage. I suppose, what does every player always want? Well, they want to know that they're backed and they want to play. But we're in an era now where you've got to pick the right bowlers for the right conditions, you know, and bowlers are an interesting breed and an extremely different breed. You know, they require a lot of love, but actually, you know, your real good guys are guys that constantly want to play, you know. So our challenge is going to be, how do we surround these guys with a lot of cricket and how do we play them at the right time? You know, some of them are getting county cricket, but I think for the ones who aren't, your Evos, your Safis, these guys, to keep them playing much longer too, they're going to need to bowl a lot and they're going to need a lot of good cricket, you know. They've got to bowl against good players. So that's probably our challenge, Shaky. And, you know, up in Scotland here with the way the conditions are and everything, you know, it's not ideal to breed a quick bowler. So we're going to have to think out the box and be really smart.
No, it's great to hear, though. I mean, about 12 boys to pick from, and, you know, that's really powerful. That's not something Scotland has actually not done too badly in the seam bowling department. You know, we've got some great seamers of the past, the likes of John Blaine, Paul Hoffman, Gavin Hamilton, Craig Wright. There's some good bowlers. But I never ever seen 7, 8, 9 bowlers. All that you're saying, that, you know, you're saying even up to 12, you'd be happy to chuck any of them in for an opportunity. So that's exciting, and I look forward to seeing who comes through and who takes the opportunity. Then the other department that I'm pretty excited about, and I'm sure you are as coach, is your spin bowling department. In particular, you've got 2 very good left-arm spinners, Mark Watt, who's already proven himself at the top level. I mean, he was a standout for me that day with the ball against England. I thought he was the guy that really stood up and counted. And then you've got Hamza Tahir, who only 4 or 5 years ago I had my doubts. You know, he was carrying a bit of weight, etc. But I seen him on a video the other day, and he looked fit as a fiddle. I don't know what diet plans and what you've been putting in place, but it's good to see, and I'm proud to see it. And you've got the likes of Michael Leask as backup, but those two in particular in T20 and one-day cricket, they must be a big part of your plans.
Yeah, a huge part of our plans. And actually, if you look at the success of our bowling attack since I've been, has actually been those two spinners that you're talking about. You know, Hamza's had a fantastic introduction into international cricket. What he's done during lockdown, I think, is a huge example to any young player coming through about if you want to achieve something, you can. You know, he's gone and lost 2 stone of weight. You know, it hasn't affected his bowling. Quite often you think, well, you've lost that amount of weight, it might affect your bowling, you know, but it hasn't with him. You know, he's a highly motivated individual. He knows what he wants to achieve, and trust me, he's going for it. The great thing about those two too is they get on really well together. They're very competitive, but they actually, you know, I watched them. They were running together the other day. They're constantly bowling together. They're talking about the game. You know, that's powerful in itself.
Yeah.
So, and just to get on to Watty, I think Watty is an extreme talent because he's just got this level of consistency. And, you know, many people who know Watty might think he's no disrespect to Watty, they might not think he's the brightest. But let me tell you, Watty is switched on. He knows what he's doing, and he understands exactly what he's trying to do. And I think, you know, he shows massive future leadership qualities. I think, you know, if he sticks to the way he's currently going and how hard he's been working, he could do anything in the game. He's played over 50 times for Scotland already.
Yeah,
he's 24 years of age.
Such a young lad. He seems like he's been around for years.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got your Leasks and your other guys. Probably the big thing we're missing is a real high-quality wrist spinner, which I think is something we're trying to develop within the pipeline. It's something we're constantly looking at. But, you know, if your 2 best spinners are your 2 left-arm spinners, we're comfortable with that, and they can play hopefully many more years for Scotland.
No, it's great. I think I'm looking forward to seeing those two causing havoc for many teams, and I think the way that the team uses them and Kyle uses them, I think he's always pretty clever with the way he brings them on. The next area is the batting. We've talked about 3 senior boys there who are obviously, we all know what they can do, and we hope they're going to do a lot more. But I mean, from what I know, you've got some great players. You've got Munsey, who just signed for Hampshire, which I just seen today. Bloody went out and had the audacity to hit the first ball for a reverse sweep 6. Just honestly, it just amazing confidence. Cross is a fine player. But who are the guys that you're confident could say we could see them scoring 100 against England in the next couple of years?
It's a great question. You know, I think you mentioned George Munsey as one. I don't think he's quite reached his potential yet. I think he's got more to come. I think his experiences now with counties, going out and experiencing different environments will help him a hell of a lot. You know, he's a confidence player. He wants to play on the world stage, and I think the more he gets of that, the better he's going to get. You've mentioned the 3 senior players already, but actually your guys, your crosses, I don't think the world has seen the best of Matt Cross yet. I think he's still got a lot more to deliver. And then you've got younger players coming through. You know, we've got a band of younger batters that will be competing for places, you know, and I think within that, it's good to have that. So you've got a Michael Jones down at Durham who's an exciting player. He's tall, he's got long levers, he hits the ball on the up really well. You know, so he's one to watch probably, and he's, you know, he got an opportunity to play for Durham the other day, so he's going to get a lot of county cricket hopefully over the next few years. And then there's 1 or 2 guys that potentially are still looking to qualify, you know, and they're looking to do their qualification. I think the key to that is you want to bring in the right individual. You know, they've got to have the right values and the right character to come into your squad and play. But Shaky, there's lots of options. There's lots of younger options. I look at some of our under-19s coming through the system. They're exciting. And I think with the right guidance, with the right leadership, you know, they could achieve anything. And so currently in our top order, there's 1 or 2 places that I think are, I wouldn't say up for grabs, but there's 1 or 2 places that guys, you know, need to own a little bit more. And with that brings opportunity for some of the extended squad members that work really hard on a day-to-day basis.
A player to put across you, just to hear your thoughts on. I'm a big fan. Seen him from a very young age, being a fellow left-hander. He just kind of really excited me. Is the lad O.S. Shah down at Lancashire? Is he somebody that you've got on your radar?
Absolutely. So Ace has done really well down at Lancs. You know, he's probably more red ball cricketer currently. If you look at it, you know, he's quite hits very straight down the ground. I think he's got a lot of work to do on his white ball game. But you know what? He's a young guy. We've certainly got him in our plans, especially when it comes to A-side cricket. You know, so hopefully we can give him a lot of opportunity as a left-handed opening batter, as you mentioned, to come in and work on his white ball game. And I think he's going to get that done in Lancs a hell of a lot too. So he's an exciting prospect, you know, and there's probably 4 or 5 or 6 other guys that are, you know, as good as Ace that could come through the system and make an impact. So yeah, he's doing really well down there.
It's great. It's great to hear the depth. It's worrying when you're talking to somebody and the first thing they say is, you know, a lot of pressure on these guys. We need these guys to do well because there's not a lot, you know, we're trying to build the squad. Sounds like you've got a healthy squad there with lots of options that you can. And I think the other thing is having more boys down south is only a good thing because it gives them exposure to high level cricket regularly. So you can just chuck them straight in. You know, you don't need to wait or see if they're ready to go. So my question is, one question I wanted to ask is, who are the 5 names that if I was to just sit at the dinner table with you today and say, so who are your 5 guys, mate, in the next 5 to 10 years that you can see taking Cricket Scotland forward and really dominating and being like the Richie Barringtons, Callum McLeods and Kyle Coutts of the team?
Yeah, I'm probably going to sit on the fence for this one, Shaky, which I don't often do. But I think just to be politically correct, should we say, and not get too many guys on my case, I think I'd love to mention more than 5 because I think there are guys that I've already said probably have not reached their potential yet. You know, who's to know what a Richie Barrington still could do? Because I think, you know, he's a wonderful player. He's fantastic to watch. I still don't think even he's reached his potential yet, which is exciting. But I think Mark Watt is someone that really could do amazing things in his career if he keeps going on the current, you know, trend that he's going on. Hamza Tahir, I think counties will be out looking for a left-arm spinner, someone like Hamza that can come in and bring real consistency. You know, if he keeps doing what he's been doing, especially during this lockdown period, I think, you know, he could achieve fantastic things in the game. And then our younger bowlers, you know, Brad Will, as you mentioned, is really a name to watch out for. You know, Brad's a highly motivated guy. He probably would be the first to tell you that he wants to play Test match cricket. You know, and I think anybody who tells you they want to play Test match cricket is obviously, you know, someone that wants to achieve the highest format of the game, which is hopefully one day in Scotland we can do that. I think a couple of younger names to probably watch out for, and they went to an under-19 World Cup and maybe didn't have the World Cup that they wanted. But if I look at a Jamie Cairns, who's a young left-arm spinner, he's only 17 years old. A Charlie Peach, you know, only 17 years old. Tom McIntosh, only 17 years old. You know, Rory Hanley down in Durham, you know, a young lad who can bowl with extreme pace. And you know, and shame, I don't want to be, you know, horrible to some of the other lads that might hope that I mention some of their names. But those are probably a few guys that stand out, and a few guys that hopefully will put that Scotland jumper on and wear it with pride. But there's many guys, and I have no doubt that if we get enough cricket, Shaky, if we get enough competitive cricket, and, you know, you mentioned the likes of beating England and these guys, you know, you need opportunities to be able to do that. You need quality opposition to be able to keep getting better. You know, you're not going to get better unless you play against guys that are better than you. And I'm very excited. I just think, you know, that puts pressure on us as a management group to make sure that we're getting the best out of those younger players and we're not losing them, which I think might have happened sometimes in the past. We don't have a conveyor belt of talent coming through. I'm not going to sit here and sell off a story that we're not in England. We're not a full member, but we've got to be wise. We have got talent. I took a walk through Edinburgh the other day, and in a square mile, I watched 10 games of cricket taking place. So people mustn't tell me there's not cricket happening in Scotland. There is a lot of cricket happening in Scotland. And I think people are craving the game in Scotland. And I think if we sell it off in the right way, we make it more mainstream, we make it cool, we make kids want to play the game, you know, we could do anything in a few years.
How is that going to be possible with the way the international structure is going? Now, this question is always going to come up. The World Cup, for instance, has been put into a smaller format. We, unfortunately, were very close, but so were a lot of other teams that you probably would have thought deserved to be at the World Cup. We're obviously due to have some fixtures this summer with New Zealand, I believe. and obviously, current circumstances, you weren't able to get that game out, which is really sad because those opportunities don't come up much. So how are we going to? How is this going to be possible? Is it the T20 World Cup? Is it that? But even the qualification for that, it's no easy feat. How are we going to play against these bigger nations? Is it just dominating and beating, becoming the best associate without a shadow of doubt?
Well, Shaky, you'll know every time you play for Scotland, it's a must-win game, because in the associate world, it's really cutthroat. You know, every game is a must-win game. If you lose a game of cricket, it potentially could cost you qualification. You know, then it comes down to net run rate, the amount of times it's come down to net run rate to get over the line in a competition. So there's very small margins. So I think if we're wise with our domestic cricket and maybe make them more, more competitive in terms of must-win games, that might teach some of the younger guys coming through that, you know, there might be a lot of pressure to win every single game. You know, we're not getting away from that anytime soon. I think we have the potential to play over the next 3 years in 3 World Cups. You know, so we're going to one next year, which is a T20 World Cup. Yeah. You know, hopefully when we get through that next round and we beat the Netherlands and Namibia and Bangladesh, you know, we automatically qualify for the following World Cup. And you know, who's to say that we're just going to these World Cups to compete? Let's go there to win. Let's go there to do something special. You know, if we've got the players, why not? You know, I'm a bit of a dreamer. I believe in the impossible, and I think if the players can also do that, then why not? You know, T20 cricket in the smallest version of the game. I know there's T10, but in terms of international cricket, you know, it brings a lot of teams closer together. You know, whereas in Test match cricket, it probably brings your more quality team might win over a longer period of time. But with the shorter version, it really brings us in the game, and it's a game that we can compete in. I think to answer your question, the 50 over World Cup is probably the one where you think, wow, this could be mission impossible. You know, what are the chances of qualifying for a 10-team competition when you're going up against full members that are getting all sorts of cash far bigger than what we're getting, you know? So it's an unfair playing field. We know that, we understand that, but for many, many, many years, you've punched above your weight here in Scotland, and we're just going to have to keep doing that, you know, until we're going to bash that door down until full membership hits us, and then we're able to hopefully put better systems in place and pay the guys better money. That's what it's going to come down to. But until then, we do have opportunities to play at World Cups. And that's not going away anytime soon. So I think, you know, that's the carrot that you dangle to the players. You know, everybody wants to go to a World Cup. People want to play on the world stage. And as long as they stay motivated and they want to go they want to go to World Cups and do special things, you know, it makes my job a hell of a lot easier then.
Yeah, no, it's I like the way you're talking. You don't want to hear about just we're there to make the numbers up. And I don't think it's been like that for a while. I think Grant Bradburn, I think, brought seeing it from the outside, I think he brought a really good change and made these guys actually start believing they could beat the big countries. Because if you're honest, you look at the history books in the World Cup, Ireland, for instance, have been able to announce themselves quite in a big way in some World Cups. You know, I'm a wee bit envious because I think on our day we're a better side. But I think they've, under some great coaching as well, the likes of Adrian Birrell, Phil Simmons, have led them to some huge victories. And they always, and I still feel the Irish players are slightly a bit better known than some of our boys because the world stage gives you that opportunity. So I guess T20 World Cup qualifications, and when we go into that tournament, it's good to hear that you're going to be backing your players to go out and listen. Let's beat these teams. Let's look at them convincingly and look to go forward. We're not here to be cagey. We've got the talent to do it, and you've got kind of it's a difficult one. You've just taken a coaching role off the back of beating England. So I don't want to put that extra pressure on you because that's bloody high pressure to take. But I think we've all got to be realistic and understand that was a phenomenal day and use it in a positive way. But don't get carried away with ourselves that, you know, that's just going to happen again. That's going to take a lot of hard work. And from what I'm seeing as well, in the pouring down rain of Edinburgh, you've got a little bubble that you've prepared in Edinburgh at the Grange, and you've been doing your training there. So tell me about what you've kind of created there.
Yeah, well, we've had to due to current circumstances, you know, and it's pandemic can really teach you a lot about yourself individually and as a team, and you get to see real true characters coming out. So we've set up a training bubble that we've been training in. So, you know, we call it a training bubble for the last 5-6 weeks, and the guys have come in. We've even had an outdoor gym set up where our strength and conditioning coach, Nick Karamoussis, has got the guys doing their gym work and they're running. So it's quite a nice environment where guys are coming. It's a bit of a one-stop shop, really. And yeah, I mean, the guys have trained fantastically well. And I think the key that you mentioned there, Shaky, is that core senior group of players are actually the ones who are motivated to want to go to a World Cup and not just compete, you know. And I think that certainly has rubbed off on me. And I'm a winner. I always have been a winner. I want to win, but it's not always about winning. You know, it's actually about creating great memories and becoming better human beings too. You know, so I'm big on that. And yeah, we've been pushing each other really hard over the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It hasn't always been easy, you know, because I think the players also get frustrated during times like this when they see the summer that we potentially could have had. You know, New Zealand, Australia, a T20 World Cup. Lots of traveling, lots of playing games. That's what the guys want to do. They want to go around the world and play games of cricket and win games of cricket for their country. And I think I understand that frustration, and it's my job to manage that frustration along with the players. And I think they've been excellent during this period. You know, I just hope that we can really set up a massive year 2021 for us, and we can really use this time now to focus on the things that we can really focus on, you know. So what are the 2-3 things we can really focus on during this period that's ultimately going to make us a better team next year, you know, so that when we do get on the park, we can just have those small little wins, those small little gains that makes us a better team and potentially allows us to compete with the bigger boys, you know. And that's ultimately what it is for me. And we've got the players and we've got the staff to do that.
So obviously it's going to be hard for you to say at the moment because of we don't know what the next month holds and the next 2 months holds. But before we lead into that World Cup, what kind of preparation have we got beforehand going into it?
Yeah, well, one of the hard things is we're probably not going to have much actual competitive cricket for the rest of the year. You know, here in Scotland, we're going into what is soon going to be a winter. So can't get outdoors and train very soon. So that opportunity is going to slip by. Then we're going to have to get into indoors if we are able to do that. You know, we don't know what the restrictions are going to allow us to do and not allow us to do. So we're probably going to have to be really creative during this time and think out the box. You know, we do have a base in Spain that we can go train at La Manga, but again, financially that means quite a bit of money that you need to invest, and in a current climate of where the finances are and where life currently is, you know, that's not going to be easy just to throw a whole bunch of money to travel with a squad. So we've got to be realistic, and like I said to you, we've got to focus on those little things that maybe don't require money, and we can just be smart and focus on those things. Yeah, I think bringing in someone like Nick, who I mentioned earlier, he's done a great job to get this team fit. You know, it's one of the things I noticed with the team. We were probably a little bit behind the 8 ball when we went to the qualifiers, and the team really collectively has bought in. And I think it's not about looking great and getting on the beach and having a 6-pack. You know, it's actually about being there, performing better for your country, but more importantly, creating longevity in your career. You know, so Nick's done a great job, and those are the sort of things we can really focus on now. But Shaky, there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of fixtures and everything. But I can honestly say that I really believe the year 2021 is going to be a year filled with cricket and some really good fixtures.
No fingers. I hope so. I hope so. What about your homeland? Any pulling in maybe some ideas to send a couple of boys over to your ends to maybe get a bit of exposure over there? Is that something? I mean, that's something I did when I was coming through. I went to South Africa a couple of times and played. I went to Australia. Is that still something that's getting looked at? I think the last couple of years have been difficult because there's actually been quite a busy calendar of games, which maybe wasn't like previous. Is that an option?
Definitely. I think, you know the value of going around the world and playing and meeting different people and experiencing a different culture. You know, South African wickets teach you how to play with a bounce. They get you to face some quicker bowlers. You know, going to India, learning how to play spin. Any of these environments we can send players to. And, you know, we sit down with the players and do a little bit of succession planning with them and seeing, you know, what are the things you need to work on? What are those small little things that are going to make you a better player? And I think if we strategically, one by one, can send them all over the world to get to gain those experiences when we don't have competition, or they might not be in the squad because they've got to go work on certain things. I think if we're able to make that happen, we will. And I think it's very important. You know, I look at playing 12 years in the UK for a club side really taught me a hell of a lot, not only about cricket, but it taught me about myself. You know, it taught me about mom's not there to wash your clothes. You know, dad's not going to be there to go and speak to people if you get into trouble. And so it teaches you a lot about yourself and really makes you grow up quickly. So I'm all for that, Shaky. I think you're on the right path there.
Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. You know, it's I've picked your brains quite a bit in your squad there, and what the what the makeup of the squad is. I think people have a really good idea now of who your core of players are, and I'm sure we're excited to hear and see a bit more of some of the other boys that you were talking about. What are your personal goals when you sit down on your sofa at night? You've got to have goals. You've got to have motivation. What does your next 18 months, 2 years look like?
Yeah, so I think so our goals we've set as a team is we want to make sure we end top of the Cricket World League 2 table, which is the table that allows you to go to the qualification for the 50 over World Cup after 2022. So that's a massive goal of ours, to end top of that table. We don't want to just end in the top 3. We want to make sure we go and win that league. And
who will you be up against in that? Who will be the main competition?
So competition in that is Oman, UAE, USA, Namibia, Nepal, PNG, some tough competitions.
Yeah,
so that's home and away.
A lot better than they used to be. That you know, you can't just assume now that PNG had a turnover. You know,
they showed in the World Cup qualifiers how good they are, and you know, we went to UAE last year last year November, and we got beaten by the USA quite convincingly in one of the games. You know, they're becoming a better team all the time. So the one thing that's happened is, yes, we've probably stood out in terms of associate nations for the last few years, but these other guys keep getting better because we the team they want to beat the whole time. You know, so every time they're playing against us, we're probably their biggest game when it comes to playing in that league. So as I said to you, you know, sometimes it's nice to be at the top, but to maintain that is really tough. You know, that's your challenge. So we want to end top of that Cricket World League 2 league after the next couple of years. It was a big, massive goal of ours to qualify for this T20 World Cup. I suppose, you know, we didn't quite fulfill what we wanted to because we wanted to win that qualification and the qualifier and not end 5th and qualify the way we did. But we showed huge character to win that last game against UAE to get in, which was, for me, good to see. So it showed that the team had character and we could do it under pressure. And then I think, personally, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Scotland proud of this cricket team. I'd like to go to these World Cups and, you know, and whatever happens in terms of performances, I just want us to go there and be the best we can be at those tournaments, you know. And I suppose if we can go and do that, then great. Another big goal of mine, and this is where my coaching hat kind of sits, I'd really like to see what happens to some of these senior players in terms of the next step in their life, you know. So for a Carl Kutzer, for a Richie Berrington, if cricket isn't there anymore for them, well, what is there? You know, what's their next step going to be? And I think in terms of a holistic approach, in terms of the players, that's really important to me because I think they're fantastic characters and they got a lot to give within the game. So that'd be a big goal of mine too.
No, that's it. I like that you get to know your players. It's something that's come across quite a lot on this podcast. I'm sure the viewers will see that as well. You take time to get to know them and understand them, and every player is different. And I think coming through in my time, I don't like to go back and talk about too much. You know, I talk about it enough in other podcasts. I get wound up for it. You're always mentioning your time, but there was once a time, and it was different. I don't feel people got to know you as well as that, or people really understood you, or clearly set out. Well, that's what I want you to do in the next 6 months. That's how I see you going. Are you happy with that? Do you think that's achievable? These are areas that I think, as you said at the start, are improving. When you were coming through as a cricketer, you said you learned more from your peers and your senior players. But coaching is a really important thing. I actually watched something recently, Shane. You might have seen it. It was called Mind Games, and it was Mark Ramprakash and Graham Hick, and them talking about how, you know, they kind of just sink or swim, and they sunk, to be honest, for the players they were. But to hear them talking about the back, you know, there was nobody there to really mentor them or deal with the mental challenges. I think it's good to hear a new, fresh approach. And I think it sounds like the boys are in good hands. I think you've got a great squad of players, and I think we've got exciting cricket ahead. It must be hard for you some days, though, when you're marching from the Grange and making your way through Edinburgh, to think that, you know, I chose Scotland over South Africa, or maybe another warmer climate. Are you happy with your decision?
Well, you walk from the Grange through Edinburgh, as you mentioned, and you've got a beautiful castle to look at, and you've got some wonderful sights. It's
Can you see that? Can you see that without the umbrella, though?
You know what? I don't know much about your part of the world, but from what I've already known, sort of the Glasgow areas and the Aberdeen areas, it's an incredible country, Shaky. It's an incredible country, and I'm so thrilled at the opportunity that I've been presented. You know, I'm very lucky, and I thank my lucky stars every single day. And you know, wherever my career takes me or my life takes me, I'm all about living in the present. You know, it's very easy to look too far ahead and what do people always say? Be careful what you wish for. You know, I'm really enjoying the now, and you know, I'm not one of those bitter guys. You know, I had a great career in South Africa. I maybe didn't achieve what I should have achieved. I can really be bitter about that if I want to, but I've chosen to use it as an advantage to motivate me to become the best coach I can be, because you know, whether that coach was good or bad, I still learn something from him, and I take something from him. I believe the best coaches are actually the best stealers. You know, you take something that you like from that coach and maybe throw away the little bits you don't like, but bring in your own style and your own philosophy. And I'm really all about that. So, you know, for me, I'm chuffed with the position I'm in right now. I'm enjoying every single day. I've got a great group of players around me. I think they've really bought into what we want to do. I really do feel that the organization is trying to become better every single day. You know, and as long as we're trying to become better every single day, then we're doing a good job.
No, listen, I think you've got a fantastic mindset, and it's been a pleasure. I mean, I spoke to you on the phone the other day, and I got off the phone, and I was impressed, and I enjoyed speaking to you. And I think it's been great to pick your brains. I've got a couple of wee questions to chuck at you before we finish up. What I would just like to say to you is, you are staying in a lovely city. You know, it's a great part of the world. But just remember, the better blokes are in Glasgow. Try and get yourself across the border a little bit, and you know, it'll just keep you rounded, Shane. It'll keep you good.
Yeah, Mr. Barrington reminds me every single day. Don't worry.
Don't go to his part of the world. That's green. That's a bit too far. That's going far and beyond. No, but no, it'd be good to see you do it in Glasgow whenever time permits.
Thank you.
So just to finish up with a couple of little fun questions. Don't want you to give them too much thought. Yep. I've actually found some new ones for you, Shane. So don't think if you've heard any of my questions before, it's totally different.
Brilliant.
My first question is, and you have to answer every question. Don't worry, it's nothing rude. First question is, who is your love child in the squad? Who's your favourite? Who's your one that gets away with everything? There must be one.
Definitely the skipper.
Smart option. Smart answer as well. I'm sure there must be one other one that you're. Do you socialise with any of the local boys? Is there somebody that you have a bite to eat with?
Yeah, Shaky, I believe there's a fine line. You know, I think it's important that they also have their time together, and you know, whilst I love getting to know them better and everything, I think there is a line. You know, but you know, Watty's a good boy. He's got a lot to offer. He's got a great sense of humour, and that's without mentioning some of the others. But he's a good lad, and I suppose I just see such a huge bright future for him if he keeps going the way he's going.
Yep. No, that's good. That's good to hear. So Watty is Shane Berger's love child. We got that.
No, don't.
I'm only joking. Number two, who always needs told something twice in the squad? Can you pick those balls up? Can you pick those balls up, please? There must be one. There must be one that needs a wee reminder.
I tell you what, it's Chris Greaves. He is an absolute moon man. He's a South African boy, but let me tell you, I've got to constantly remind him. But he's a good lad, but he needs constant reminding.
Good to go. Come on, Chris. Listen to your coach. First time round, son. Who's the best fielder in the squad at the moment? Now, surely old Daddy Barrington is getting pushed for his money. Surely somebody must be knocking on the door. Yeah,
it's again a great question. Barrow's, right up there in terms of world standards. He's right up there, you know. But I tell you what, Callum McLeod is a phenomenal fielder. He moves really well. He's got a great arm. So I would say those two are pretty much neck and neck. And it's surprising that it's the two older boys in the team, you know. So hopefully some of the younger guys can see them as examples and try achieve the sort of fielding, standards where they are. Well, there's the guy with the long hair. I've never played with him, Mr. Budge, Dylan Budge, I believe. I was very impressed by him in the Scotland-England game for the speed. Now, one, it was scampering between the wickets to get Cal up to his 100, which he did very well.
but then he was a fair whippet around the boundary line in the Scotland innings. He saved a lot of sure boundaries. And then I seen the other day as well, he's a bit of a freak in the bleep test, or the yo-yo, if you might. I don't know what it's called, changed a little bit. But is he a decent fielder?
Well, you know what? I haven't mentioned Budge once in this interview, and probably because he's the guy. He's the guy that goes.
I got that in for you, mate.
Well, Budgie's gonna love you for that. But I think he's the guy that just goes under the radar, you know, and not many people kind of see him. And I always say, be careful that guy that goes under the radar.
I don't know how, because he's got a lovely flowing head of hair.
Yeah, you call him. A lot of the lads call him Tarzan in the team. But he's let me tell you, you know, you sometimes forget that Dylan Budge is only 24 years of age. You know, he's got this real sort of mature mindset. He's a deep thinker about the game. Also, future leadership potential. He probably, Shaky, and I'm happy to say this, is currently the unluckiest guy not to be playing in this team, because he epitomizes all the values, all the behaviors we want to be seeing, and he works bloody hard. You know, he's the first one to arrive and he's the last to leave. So he's, you know, I hope Dylan gets all the good stuff thrown at him in his life, because he's a good lad.
No, good to hear. Good to hear. Okay, Shane, last question. Your most embarrassing moment on or off a cricket field? Preferably on a cricket field, I think, would be a safer option for you.
I had it's a bit of and it's not to talk about 100 that I scored, okay, but I had a very embarrassing moment in Pretoria. And I scored a pretty good 100 in the first innings, one of my best innings I've ever played, and I was completely on top of the world. And it was the morning of the second innings of the game. And so in the first innings, I got 105, really happy. Get to the second innings, and we suddenly we start having a bit of a collapse. So I rushed to get my pads on, and I realized that I haven't really prepared the way I should have for my second innings, you know. So I wanted to go hit balls in the nets. So I called the 12th man across. And he's labouring, he's taking his time, and I'm getting a bit fidgety because I think a wicket's going to fall. I just had a bit of a sense. So I get over to the nets, and before the 12th man can throw the first ball, a wicket falls. So I don't get to hit any balls in the nets. So I'm fuming. So I walk out. Kerrigan was bowling, a left-arm spinner. First ball I nick off, I get caught by Alistair Cook at first slip. They all have a bit of a chuckle. Off I walk straight to the nets, and I force that 12th man to come and throw to me, because now I just want to hit balls. What does he do? First ball, he cleans me up. I completely miss it, get cleaned up. The next ball, he nicks me off. And I just walk straight out the nets, and I'll never forget Alistair Cook laughing at me from the middle of the HBC.
Listen, the game is always there to, you know, it doesn't matter. You can go from 105 to practically, you shouldn't have got out of bed the next morning, because everything, but that's just the nature of the game. That's why we love it. You know, you can always bounce back. You can be in a real rut, but then you can just come back and play a fighting knock, or you know, not taking many wickets and you have a great catch. There's always something if you keep mentally strong. And I think that's something that's come across from talking to you today. You know, it's the mental side of the game, and really getting to understand your players. That I've really enjoyed listening to you. I want to say thank you very, very much for coming on the podcast. Probably this will be out very soon, and I hope it'll be something that's taken very well. And I think it gives a really good insight into the man that's in charge at Cricket Scotland just now. And I wish you all the very best with your side. Hopefully by 2021 you can get back on a cricket field a bit more regularly, and we get to see this Scotland team that, you know, beat England, and maybe and I'm excited to see what you do with it. So thanks again, mate.
Brilliant, Shaky. Just from my side, I just want to thank you for, you know, all the good work you're doing. I think your messages that you've been sending, and being an ex-player, it's so powerful. So I just want to thank you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you down at some of the games, and getting as many people down to the games, and as much support as, because we do need it. You know, the boys are putting in a good shift, and I've really enjoyed chatting to you. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. Take care.